So the way that I use comfrey is I'll literally grab a couple leaves if I've got a sore arm or I bang my shin on something, and literally throw it in the blender, dump a little bit of olive oil in. How much? It's kind of like when your grandma says add a little bit of flour. What does she mean? I don't know, I've been doing it for 25 years. I just plug in flour till it's done. It's ascientific. So just take a couple tablespoons. All you want to do is make sure that you're able to spread it. Does that make sense? So it's kind of mushy. Yeah.
Does it taste like kale or spinach or like?
I would not recommend eating comfrey. There's a lot of mixed science and mixed research on ingesting comfrey. The way that I would use comfrey is use it as a poultice. So you're going to grind it up in the blender with the olive oil, pack it on the spot that's sore, and let it sit there for 15 minutes, for 30 minutes, until it dries. If you've got stuff to do, I'll literally wrap my arm in saran wrap, as dumb as that sounds, and I'll walk around with it all day long. And just let it sit there as a poultice. So I do have grandparents that have arthritis really, really bad, and this has worked wonders for them. My dad worked in the shop and at General Motors for 35 years, and we've packed it on his tennis elbow and on his wrist. And so it does show a lot of promise that way. So that's the way that I prefer to use it, is topically only for comfrey. There are some naturopathic, allopathic physicians that will use it internally, but I wouldn't recommend that because it does also act as a blood thinner, which can interfere with Coumadin, warfarin, that sort of thing, and it does have adverse effects on arrhythmia as well. So I would recommend using comfrey topical only. As far as other uses for comfrey, now in the garden, this is one of the best ways to do what's called chop and drop. So it's a living mulch that you plant at the base of a fruit tree, and it grows very, very densely. Now the strain of comfrey that I like to use is a variety called Bocking 14 because it does not spread by seed. It's by root only, so it will stay put. If you buy another random variety of comfrey, it's going to spread by seed and take over your yard, and the only thing that will get rid of it is probably pigs. Why? Because the taproot can go down several meters, that is correct, meters into the soil. Now that's a problem if you're trying to move it. It's phenomenal if you're mineral mining and trying to get nutrients into bad sandy soil. Can I get an amen? So you're trying to get some good nutrients into your soil where your plants can actually use them. So I let my comfrey grow until it's just about to flower. Why? Because that's when the nitrogen levels are the highest, and I chop it and I drop it. I'm a lazy gardener. I don't want to go cart it all over the yard. So if I need it around a pear tree, guess where it's going? The base of my pear tree. Now, how do you know where to plant it? So most trees, you don't want to plant right around the base. You're planting it at the drip line. So if my arms are the branches, you're planting that comfrey right at the base of the drip line of when it's going to be mature. Now, not when you first plant it, because that's going to be 1.5 feet from the tree. So just figure out, okay, how big is this tree going to get? 10 feet. Great. 10 feet out, drop that comfrey down, chop it, and drop it. Now, what does comfrey do for the soil? There was a little bit of rumor going around in the permaculture world about 5-10 years ago that it was all this nitrogen and, phosphorus for the soil, which is actually not true. Mostly what comfrey does is it gives you minerals that are down deeper. It's going to give you magnesium, calcium, manganese, boron. It's giving you all those minerals and making them more bioavailable because it's now on the top of the soil. The other thing that I like to use comfrey for is a pollinator. If I've got a problem getting bees into my yard to pollinate fruit trees, berry bushes, tomato plants, I don't want to spend all day taking a paintbrush and tickling the flowers with a paintbrush to pollinate, which I have done before. It's a little embarrassing when your neighbors see you. So I would rather let the bees do their job and I can do my job and just enjoy the garden a little bit. So there are some plants I'll let grow to flower. The rest of the plants, I'll just chop them and drop them. Now here in Florida, in one calendar year, you can probably get 6 to 7 cuttings per year from your comfrey. If you're in a colder temperate climate, Missouri or Michigan, you're going to get 4 to 6, at most per year of your cuttings, and it will grow back. I promise you, you are not going to hurt the comfrey plant. They will They will grow pretty quick. I mean, this is probably not even a year old plant. By the end of year 1, it'll be pretty good sized for you. And this is a really easy plant to propagate. So what I would do with this plant, if I bought one of these today, which Luke does have these out front, take the root and cut it up into like quarter-size pieces and plant those pieces, and then you'll have that many more plants. And so comfrey is one of the easiest ones to spread, to propagate on your own. So for me, I go in and I look for a bigger comfrey plant because I know I'm not actually buying the plant, I'm buying the root of the comfrey, and I'm cutting it up and I'm gonna propagate that. Now, just like this will feed the soil, comfrey will also feed your livestock. So chickens, cattle, horses will also go after comfrey. It's not one that cattle and goats are going to have as their first choice, but when they need minerals, like we supply a mineral block, to cattle, they're not sitting there munching on a mineral block because yum yum, eat it up. Their body knows when they need the minerals and they eat it as needed. So animals will do the same thing with comfrey. So when they do need those extra minerals in their system, they'll go after the comfrey. And for me, practically, if this is my fence line here, I'm planting it right there on the fence line. So it's mostly protected. It's not out into the middle of pasture. And then if I needed to guard it and put a little chicken wire around it so the cattle give it a bit of a break, then I have that ability. But it provides a nice ground cover too, especially for goats and cattle if you're trying to keep the weeds down under your fence. Nobody likes, by nobody I mean me, nobody likes weed whacking under cattle fencing. So I let the comfrey do its job, keeps the grass and the weeds down, and then we're good to go.